Okay, this is another video about Santanas. I realize in some of my past discussions of Santanas, I haven't really talked about the Santana 2500 in its stock, unmodified form. When we build Santanas here, we build them to look like Defenders. And most of the photos that I have of Santanas are after they have been built by us to look very, very much like Defenders. And I thought I'd walk you around one here in its stock form. This is a vehicle I just bought for a project. It will be transformed into a Defender look and completely repainted and reupholstered and different wheels and tires and so forth. But before we dig into that project, I thought I would walk you around a Santana 2500 and kind of show what it looks like in its standard form straight from Santana. This is the vehicle that Santana began building after their official license with Land Rover ended and Land Rover started producing and selling the Defender. The 2500 is sort of Santana's version of a Defender. But although visually similar in a lot of ways, it's mechanically quite different, and even some of the underpinnings are quite different. So I kind of want to walk you around this and show you. I apologize that the shop is a mess. We're in the middle of a whole bunch of builds, and it's always a little bit of a disaster when that's going on. Essentially, as I said in my previous video, the Santana 2500 it can be thought of more as a highly evolved Series 3. And in fact, Santana called it a Series 3A or Series 4, depending on the year we're talking about. But in short, this is a bone stock 2500. This is a car I bought for a project. This is a very, very good example, although you'll probably see some surface oxidation, which is entirely normal with mild steel parts. There's no structural rust, no rust perforation anywhere in this truck. And all the surface stuff will clean up and paint to make it look nice. But as you can see, it has the flat nose like a Defender, but the detailing is all quite different. The headlamp surrounds are different. The headlamps are even in a slightly different place, which complicates changing the nose to a Defender look. The bumper is much bigger and heavier. The fender flares are different. They're a different shape and different contour than the Defender flares. The rear has bumperettes on the sides. This one has a brush bar in the rear, which I'll take off. And although it may not be super evident, and never really is, this vehicle actually has a shorter wheelbase than a Defender does. And I'll explain that in a minute. You can see though how the tires are offset in the fender wells. And that's a look that's exacerbated a little when we put on bigger wheels and tires, but it doesn't cause any functional problems. Let's look a little bit at what's the same here. The bonnet is the same, Defender and Santana. The front wings are the same, Defender and Santana. Even these headlamp panels are the same. You can see the cutouts come way down here for if you fit a Defender style headlamp surrounds, the same, but the lights are different. The bumper's different, the grille is different, but most of the sheet metal is the same. As I said, the fender flares are different, but the front wings are actually the same, Defender front wings. The doors, the complete door is the same, Defender or Santana 2500. The difference is here in this rear wing. This is shorter on a Santana 2500. And you can see this has a tiny little gap here between the fender flare and the back of the door. On a Defender, you'd have more room here, couple more inches. That's because this Santana 2500 rides on an evolved version of the Series 3 88 chassis. And again, you can see how the wheel is offset in the wheel well there. So this piece is different. The roof, the hardtop, which removes just like it would on a Defender or a Series 3, this hardtop, if you removed it here, would not fit on a Defender, but it would fit on an 88. It'll bolt right onto a Series 3 88. When we convert these to soft tops, we buy the soft top and frame for an 88, not for a Defender. The entire rear door is the same as a Defender. You can just take this door off and bolt it right onto a Defender. But you see the tail lamps are in a different location, and there's minor detail changes throughout. On the interior, this one has some damage to the dash area, which we'll repair when we do the build, but this instrument binnacle and surround are identical to a Defender. This piece, which is broken here and it has to be replaced, is the same. The door panels are the same. The seats are quite a bit different. The seats on a Santana 2500 are much wider and much more comfortable. These are extremely comfortable seats. Roomy and soft, but supportive. These are great seats, but they're different. They're significantly different size than a Defender. And the center console, as a result, is much narrower on a Santana 2500. A Defender center console, like an aftermarket one, won't fit between these seats. There's not enough room. But the rest of the dash, this one has a aftermarket radio hanging in there, all that stuff will go, but the rest of the dash is all Defender. 5-speed Santana gearbox, same as in a V8 Defender. Manual transfer case, because these trucks are still 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, not all-wheel drive like a Defender is. In the rear, we have essentially the room of an 88. This truck is not cleaned or anything. This truck just came right off the flatbed from when I transferred it here. So these seats are all torn up. They'll be reupholstered, but these are the Santana rear buckets, which can be folded up. They're connected to each other, so they can be removed from the truck in pairs, or they can be deployed individually. But this rear cargo area is essentially the same size as that on an 88, not on a Defender. These trucks are leaf sprung, not coil sprung. So they sit a little lower than a Defender. They sit about, 3 or 4 centimeters lower than a Defender would, all things equal. And again, they're not all-wheel drive like a Defender, they're 4-wheel drive. This is the engine, the 12J engine, same as a Defender, 12J Rover diesel, as an early Defender. These Santana 2500s never got the TDIs or anything like this. All of them were 12Js. Power steering, power brakes, front disc brakes, but still largely a more refined, comfortable version of an 88 rather than any kind of Spanish-built clone of a Defender. They don't have the refinement of a Defender. They don't have the speed. I mean, the engine and transmission are comparable to what you'd find in a very early Defender, but compared to something like a early 90s 200 TDI or mid 90s 300 TDI Defender. You know, these are nowhere near as refined or as powerful, but they are extremely simple, rugged, dependable little donkeys. I love these things. They're a really nice mix between a Series 3 and a Defender. They have a lot of the, particularly once we're done with them, they are visually very difficult for a layperson to distinguish between a Defender. But they have the simplicity and kind of the mechanical honesty and ruggedness of a Series 3, which is really nice. So that's a little walk around a stock Santana 2500 and a discussion of some of the differences. These rear side windows are the same. These Safari windows are the same as on a Defender. The windshield is the same, but there's a lot of little differences that stem from the wheelbase and suspension and some of the drivetrain that distinguishes them. Neat trucks. I'll try to shoot an after video when this one's done, and you'll see the transformation. Thanks as always for joining me.